Hi, folks. This is John again. As you may know, if you watch any of my Mandarake order videos, occasionally I'm fortunate enough to save up some money and place orders. So today I have two small orders. This order came from the Sara warehouse. There are, I believe, 15 items in this box. One of these items was not specifically for me. The other ones are. So, according to my tiny little notes here, the average, if I exclude the cost of the item that was not for me, the one that my close friend asked me to order for him, then the average cost here is about $11 an item shipped. Now, this order came by EMS. Usually these days I use DHL, but this came by Japan Post Express. Took, about 4 or 5, it took less than a week for it to get from Tokyo, Japan to me here in Florida. So you might think to yourself that, wow, you paid an average of $11 for that item? You got ripped off. But then again, I paid an average of $11 for this item, which was a hell of a bargain. So let's take a look at what I most recently purchased. Because if you've watched any of my order unboxing videos before, you know that I am particularly fond of trying to purchase fairly odd, unusual, exceptional items. All right, the very first item in this order is actually the one that my close friend asked me to purchase. Let's take a look. What do we got here? Wow, it's much bigger than I expected. Oh, excellent. This is the 2001 issue Bandai vinyl King Ghidorah from GMK, from the Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All Out Attack movie. This does have both of its paper tags still attached. I knew that it had the main paper tag. I was not sure from the imagery if it had the child small parts warning label attached, but apparently it does. The total on this, the cost of a figure plus shipping, is probably going to end up being somewhere right around $70 US, but that's actually a pretty good price for this particular figure. This one, as I said, is going to a friend of mine who I'm hoping and expecting will reimburse me for it. All right. This particular item I am not going to bother to unroll. This is a vintage Yoshikazu Yasuhiko Dirty Pair illustration wall poster. This poster was 2,000 yen, so with shipping, I'm somewhere around the $25 range for it, which is a moderately high price for a single wall poster. However, I have seen sellers trying to get as much as $200 for this particular poster. If I can figure out video editing, I may insert an image of this poster in the YouTube video. I purchased a pair of little Dragon Ball zipper bags because these were super cheap. They were only 100 yen each. So my goal was to just try and insert as many items as I could into the order without inflating the shipping cost. So that means that on average, I paid $11 a piece for these, which might seem like a lot. However, that also means that, for example, the 2,000 yen poster averaged only $11. And that also means that, for example, this figure ended up costing me an average of only $11 US delivered from Tokyo to the US in a week. Now, this particular Bee Cutie Bunny figure, in this series, there is a Supersonico. I have the Supersonico bunny figure in this series in black. So that's why when I saw that this red version of Rem, or is this Rum? Rum. Yes, Rum, R-A-M. When I noticed that she was available and I knew that I could get her very affordably, I decided I wanted this because it'll make a great pairing in my new display case. This particular figure I picked up because I have a bit of a fondness for the old Sunrise My Hime television series. To be honest, I never quite kept up with all of the sequel series, but I did like My Hime. And the original retail price on this was 3,600 yen. So I got this delivered for, as I mentioned, an average of $11 US. So this I will actually open up and put in my display case. I am pleased, tentatively, to see that this Licorice Recoil figure is probably bigger than I expected it to be. I expected, judging based on the box, it to be a little bit smaller than this is. I really wanted to get both girls, but I apologize for forgetting their names. I should have put that down on my little note card. But the long-haired girl was sold out, so I was only able to get Chisato. Am I right? Is this Chisato? But then this does mean that I'll hunt down her partner on one of my next orders. I am a fan of the Aharen wa Hakaranai. The Aharen is inscrutable anime television series. I usually am not a big fan of noodle stopper figures. However, I noticed that this Aharen noodle stopper figure is particularly designed so that it doesn't lean over. It actually sits completely flush on top of a surface. So I thought to myself, this will probably sit a little bit better on a display shelf. And it might be the only Aharen figure, or at least it's the only one I've seen. So because I like unusual anime items and because I like this show, I did make an exception to buy this noodle stopper figure. In case you're unfamiliar, noodle stopper figures are figures specifically designed so that when you have a cup noodle, you peel the top of the cup noodle open, you pour the hot water in, you put the top flap back down, then you put this figure on top of the cup noodle for 3 minutes while the hot water cooks the noodles. So that's what this figure is for. I purchased this Bomya figure because I was under the impression that this was in the same series as the other larger figures that got released, I don't know, how long ago was that? Like 10? No, it's more than 10 years ago. 15? Yeah, it was in the mid-early 2000s. There were a whole series of this, including the Oni Musume girl. Now, this one had a slightly different color scheme, so I decided because I could get it relatively cheap, I would pick this one up as a pair to the other one. I did not realize that it was much smaller, though. Now, I'm not complaining because it is. Actually, now that I look at it, I'm not sure that it is a new color scheme. This might be the standard color scheme and just a little bit smaller. Now, the hair is a little bit more opaque on this than it is on the standard figure. So maybe this is a figure I could have gone without, but regardless, I don't mind having it. I think that ideally, I would prefer to have the normal proportion Uma Musume, Special Week, and Silent Suzuka figures. However, I'm a little bit cautious that possibly because they're so thin, they're so lanky, I worry that the regular human proportion figures might end up falling over or deforming from being out on display. So I decided instead that for about the same price, I would try the slightly super deformed, chunkier, smaller versions, thinking that maybe these might stand without warping or deforming over time. So I don't know that these two characters are my favorite Uma Musume characters, but these are the two characters that starred in the first season. So that's why I decided that I wanted to get Special Week and Silent Suzuka. And if I like these two figures, then I will hunt down a matching Teo. I'm a I'm a little, just a tiny little bit surprised that this is a little bit smaller than I anticipated it being. But what this is a military style little pack, kind of like a military style backpack. It's just a tiny little version. But it has a leather Girls and Panzer patch on the back of it. The entire thing comes in its own Girls and Panzer storage. String pole top vinyl bag. On one hand, Girls and Panzer is military themed because it's about girls riding around in tanks. Now, otherwise, they don't really use any kind of military gear, but I still like the idea of military-esque gear labeled with or connected to the anime. This was 2,500 yen, and I know the shipping on it by default is a little bit high, which is why I did not order this in any of my previous orders, even though I wanted to. But after I've been putting off buying this for about a year or more, I finally decided, well, excuse the pun, I'm going to bite the bullet and finally just order this regardless of how much it inflates the shipping cost. Those of you that are at least somewhat familiar with me and my collecting habits will know that I like collecting Shikajiki pencil boards. When I discovered that there was a Mospeada Shikajiki available, I decided, oh, that's neat. I have not seen one before. I'd like to have that, so ordered one. I typically don't primarily collect clear files. However, this Tamayura, I believe is this the movie? I believe this was issued in commemoration of the Tamayura movie. But it's a clear file. It's simply a nice design. It was very cheap. Now, on average, it ended up being $11. But then again, on average, this came out to $11 instead of like 30-something. So, the averages work out. And the primary thing that caused me to place this order is this particular copy of Shonen Jump magazine. I happen to see that this particular Shonen Jump magazine had come into stock. This is labeled as the October 24th, 1980. Yes, this is labeled as the October 24th, 1988 issue. This particular Shonen Jump contains the first manga chapter of what we would call Dragon Ball Z. The Dragon Ball manga chapter in this issue is the first appearance of Raditz, the first appearance of Son Gohan. This is the beginning. This is the first chapter of the Dragon Ball Z era. So, considering that this was 1,500 yen, I thought that the price was very affordable for it. It's a landmark issue in manga history. I decided that while it was available, I wanted to put this into my collection. Now, I also, coincidentally, made another order to the Nakano warehouse. There was a particular item at the Nakano warehouse that I really wanted, so I made a separate order there. There are also, by pure coincidence, the same number of items in this order. The average shipping cost, including delivery, for this order came out to just under $10 an item on average. So, the primary big item, or one of the big items in this order, is a Marin Kitagawa figure from Kono Biscal wa Koi Osuru, or in other words, known as My Dress Up Darling. I do like the series. I do like the character Marin. However, I have to admit that this was the last item that I put into my order. And the reason why I put this into my order is because I was fooling around with what I could add to the order without increasing the shipping. And I realized that I could put this into the order without seemingly increasing the shipping drastically. No, actually, sorry, no, this was in the Nakano warehouse. I did not know what the shipping cost was. But I was playing around with the total amount that I was spending and the number of items I was ordering. And so I ultimately decided, well, yeah, all right, let's go ahead and throw this in the order. So I put this in there. And I do intend to open this one up and put this one in my new display case. This item is probably going to be difficult to see. Is it open? It is open. I purchased this item on a whim. This is a Evangelion, I believe this is fourth movie. It does not say specifically. This just says the new. It just says Shen Evangelion. I believe this is from the fourth rebuild movie. It is basically just a rubber coaster, but it was super cheap, and I thought it was attractive looking, so I decided, well, it's super cheap. It shouldn't increase the shipping cost that much. I'll just throw that in the order. One of the two primary items that I wanted to get in this order was this item. I'm surprised that the box is relatively small, but I know that the figures are pretty sizable. I know that the figures are about 3.5 inches or so. However, these are a set of the original Pure White. This is the 15th anniversary. I believe this is the 15th anniversary edition Futari wa Precure, Cure Black, and Cure White figures. I do have the larger set that includes Shiny Luminous. However, being the sort of fanatic neurotic collector I am, I've never taken those out of the box. So these I do deliberately intend to take out of the box and put on display here in my room. This is the other item that motivated me to place this order. This is the June. This is the June 1977 issue of Out magazine. This is the second issue of Out magazine. This is historically significant because this is the world's first ever anime magazine. The very first issue of Out magazine was devoted to live action adventure movies. The second issue was devoted to anime. So this magazine predates New Type, it predates AnimeAge, it predates Anime V, it predates Megami magazine. This is the world's first ever fully committed to anime magazine. So as a historical relic, I decided I really wanted to own a copy of this. You can see what this is. This issue of Shonen Jump is the first appearance of the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. I am not familiar with the manga. I do like the anime. I'm a couple episodes behind on the current second season, but I did watch all of the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen, and I went out and saw the movie theatrically. This particular magazine wasn't super cheap. However, I don't think it's ever going to go down in price or in value, and so I decided it was still relatively affordable. And also keep in mind that at the total cost, this averaged out to actually only about $10. So at an average price, I'm really happy to add this to my collection. This item is, I am somewhat embarrassed to say, not terribly creative. My cameraman happens to be a fan of the Tatakai Ramen Man television series. He's not a highly obsessive or devoted collector of merchandise. However, I do know that he does have some appreciation for Shikijiki, and I know that he does appreciate some Shikijiki, especially vintage ones. So when I saw that this was available, I committed myself to not buying it for myself and decided that since he's a good enough friend to put up with me, I will buy this as a gift for him. I picked up a handful of, well, actually, I'll go through these separately, of Evangelion clear file sets. I don't know how many are in each package. I'm going to say that there are, just based on the weight, I'm going to guess that there might be 2 of them in each of these. All right, now this one is just one. I'm guessing that there might be 2 in each of these packages. But as I mentioned, I typically don't collect clear files. I collect Shikijiki instead. However, these were only 100 yen each. They were super cheap. And I was trying to acquire as many items as I could to average out the shipping cost. So that's why I purchased these. In terms of books, I'm probably one of the few people that still remembers Mina-chan, the anime television series. This is Okama, the illustrator, the character designer's illustration book for the I don't even recollect the entire Japanese title. No, that's right. Getsumin Toheiki Mina. I'm surprised that I actually remembered that. Getsumin Toheiki Mina illustration book. I know almost nothing at all about the Rudolph and Ipai Atena full CG anime movie. But because I know almost nothing about this anime movie, that's why I decided that I wanted to spend a few bucks to buy the movie program so I could check it out. I do know that this movie has surfaced in the fan community, so I will probably try and get around to actually watching the movie at some point in the future. But this movie program was 300 yen, so I decided for the uniqueness of it, I wanted a copy of that. I think I did watch all of the Lance and Masks anime television series. It was so forgettable that I don't even remember for certain if I watched all of it. But this illustration guidebook to the show was only 300 yen. I don't have anything representing this show in my collection, so I decided for the price it was worthwhile to acquire. To my embarrassment, I have never actually watched the Technopolice 21C movie. It's an early 80s anime feature. I know that I should watch it. I know that at some point I will watch it. Seeing a movie program available for it struck me as something quite unique and unusual, so I decided that, wow, that's really neat. I'd like to own that. And it was 500 yen. I am also probably one of the few people that remember the existence of the Chemico Deluxe anime television series. This is a illustration guide to the Chemico Deluxe series. I do not know if this book was issued with an OB. This copy does not have an OB. However, this copy was only 300 yen, so I decided at the price, I'm willing to pick this up. And the last item, this is a guidebook to Noita Mina, the 10th anniversary of the Noita Mina anime programming block. So this should have a variety of different shows represented in it. So I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. And this book was only 200 yen. So at the price, it was just stupid cheap. So I decided, yeah, that's an interesting novelty. I'll pick that up as well. So that's what I acquired in my two most recent Mandarake orders. If you're still with me watching this, I invite you, feel free to send me any questions or comments. But otherwise, I hope you have found this video interesting, and I hope that perhaps eventually, when I do this again, you'll tune back in again. So thanks for watching.